All right, I think I am done most of the tool holders for my tool storage wall. Now, I didn't film the majority of these, mostly because it does take a while to actually make all of these. It's a lot more time consuming than I originally thought, and adding in the filming process just really compounds the time quite a bit. So I thought I would just run through the tools that I already have up on the wall and to show you how I made them. Hopefully you can get some ideas of how you might want to set up your own. Now that being said, I made most of these just using my table saw, drill press, drill, bandsaw, but of course you can accomplish these with a bunch of other tools as well. Okay, so first up, this is kind of a tool panel for most of my measuring devices, levels and squares and things like that. It's a really simple build, and of course this doesn't need to be a French cleat design. You could just screw these, glue these directly to the wall and use as is as well. But I just made it on a board here, and a lot of them are just little shelves, sometimes with little slots or grooves cut through to help support the tools so they're not sliding off, falling off, and those things as well. So it just pops up on the wall here. Now, this is pretty crude, but I think it works pretty well. So just loading it up. So on the side here, I just have some holders nailed directly into the wall. Some of them are simply just a couple nails in place. Some of them I've cut out specific shapes, like for this saw here. Pretty straightforward. And then I also have right over here for this larger level, little holder there that slots in. All right, next up, you can take a look at my hand planes here. These ones are pretty simple as well. Just little shelves angled a little bit downwards with little lips cut into the plywood so they slot into place. Again, lots of different ways to do this one, but I thought it turned out pretty well. And then again, just a little groove cut into a block here for this one. Now, I like the look of this one quite a bit, but it does take up quite a bit of space. So I am already thinking about maybe a redesign that takes up a little less space on the wall, although I think it looks pretty good, so I'll probably end up sticking with it for a while. Moving on down the wall, just a couple dowels fastened into these side blocks here, and it just hooks on the wall. And this is just for a variety of different tools that can just hook around these dowels. Mostly pliers and things like that. Tucked in over here is a holder for some files. Again, pretty simple design, just brad nailed into the top here, the side braces, and then just drilled and rounded over the holders in the top there. Had to play around a little bit with the insides of these just so they would sit straight up and down as I put the files back in. And over to the hammer holder. Easy to take these in and out. Now, I played with a couple different designs on this one. This one's pretty simple, slots in. This is the prototype for the first one. I wanted some sort of like tiered holder that would go on the wall. It didn't end up working out so well, so that was kind of a failed trial. At least I figured out it was no good early on and just went with something simpler. That's usually what I found with most of these, is that if I just chose a simple design, that's more or less the way to go. Moving on, I have my chisels. These ones, you got your cleat, and then there's just a couple blocks to space out a board in front, and then the chisels just slot it in place. Okay, over here, paper towel holder. Just slots in. This was already one that I had, so I just thought I'd give it a home up on the wall here. And going down below, this is just like a little box, the cleat on it. I'm not sure if this is actually where I'm going to end up storing things like tape measures, but just a little kind of catch-all tray for right now. I'll probably make a few more of these for a taller one for pencils and things like that. And I'm probably gonna add another cleat along here for a bunch of little boxes like this. Okay, moving on over to this side of the tool bench. Let's have a look at the drill holder. All right, so here we go. It has slots for 4 different tools on the bottom and just a shelf on the top. Fairly generic, not made specifically for my drills or anything like that. There's a home for drillable bagans over here. You can store them upright or flipped over. Either way works with this setup. Except for, of course, the jigsaw here needs to go in upside down. And I don't know if this is going to be a permanent home for the brad nailer, but it works there for now. And then up top, oh, probably not a permanent home. And up top, I am just storing a bunch of my drill bits. Right above, storage for a bunch of tape. It just dowels on an angle with a couple braces on the side. All right, so again, I'm just using whatever scraps I have on hand. So a lot of these aren't very pretty, but I do think that they're quite functional. One thing you got to be sure of when you are making French cleat holders is they do need to be supported against the French cleat. Since you have that gap between your cleat and the wall, you need to make sure your support is always going to be against one. Now, especially for taller ones, like for my router here, you need to make sure that it's supported to the next cleat as well, especially if you have wider spaces or gaps like mine. Moving on, this is for my circular saw. There we go. That's the name I'm looking for. Just a couple pieces here just to hold it in place. I just made it to the specifications of my particular circular saw here. Slots into place pretty nicely. Let's back this up a bit and we'll take a look at the router. So there's a plunge attachment on the top of this, and then this is my handheld router here. Cable storage, not so great right now. It's just kind of tucked in the back, so I might come up with a better solution for that. If you have one, let me know. There's space for tools on the side here. Maybe I'll add in a drawer, shelf for some router bits, but I do have storage for most of my router bits over tucked in on what is a cluttered router table right now. I'm gonna try to take this off without dropping olive on the ground. Just a triangle brace on the side against the cleat. Everything's just glued and brad nailed into place. I just went over, measured out equal distances, drilled out individual holes for all these screwdrivers. All right, and then we have sand off over here. This is for my random orbit sander, and just slots for all my sandpaper here. Again, just making sure that you have a cleat to rest it against. And on top is just a little shelf for the sander. I didn't make anything for the reciprocating saw here, but it actually just kind of slots in nicely in the upper corner here. I don't use that tool very often, so we'll see if I actually get around to making a holder for it. One of the nice things about French cleats is that if you add a cleat to your workbench, you can just pop a tool holder off the wall and bring it over to your workbench to use there. All right, so there's my tool wall as of right now. I still have a few more spaces where I'm gonna be building some things. I want a few more catch-all trays, some spots for my glue, but overall, pretty happy that I have everything up on the wall and looking good. Hopefully this gave you some ideas for what you can do in your garage. If you have any comments or things that you think that I can improve, let me know. Always happy to hear in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.